Look at that face. I'm actually very happy you're back, Benjamin.
It's good. It's good to be back. Yeah. I'm back. I'm still very, very, very tired, but I'm back.
Not tired.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
This, though.
More energy, yeah.
More energy. More. Keep it up, yeah.
Just keep sending you that meme. I said keep sending more energy, more passion, more energy, more passion.
Yeah. No, I've obviously been catching up with you over the past month, which is crazy because it's felt like about 3 years.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's felt like such a long time, but it's definitely good to be back. And talking Pokemon again, talking anything else other than babies and how much milk should a baby have and all that.
Don't worry about that, Benjamin. We're obviously going into it, but let's just go straight into the intro once again. Welcome everyone to another episode of the SpilltheTeaCG podcast. It's me, Alex Dow, alongside Joe Bernard, and finally, as we've just already mentioned, back on the pod, Benjamin Yard. We haven't quite worked out yet.
No,
we still have Rabaiotti on the graphic.
Well, the baby is officially a yard, so I've got to get my button to gear and change my passport and then change everything else. But it's been a whirlwind. Past 3 weeks, 4 weeks now. Nelly was born on the 30th, but things didn't go according to plan. It was quite a long labour, and then she was found with a twisted bowel of volvulus, what they called it. I'm basically a doctor now after spending like 3 weeks in hospital. And then she needed emergency surgery, but I won't get into too much detail of it. But it's been a long road, but thanks to everyone, I guess, as well. Shout out as much as I have been, of course, on a personal level. But I must say, I wouldn't have done it without you guys and without everyone else. Just being there as somebody to talk to, but as well as that, somebody to talk anything else other than milligrams of milk and all medical stuff, and like I have been with the family. So yeah, but really.
The headline is you're back. Baby's okay.
That's the main thing.
You're
okay.
You're home
baby's
at
home.
last.
No complications. Yeah. Baby's home. But yeah, that's the main thing. That's the important thing as well.
Now it's just parenting that you have to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So, a lot less
stress. Doing that already with just you, Benjamin. Now she has to do two babies. So.
Harris, that is. She had a 3-hour nap earlier, so it's my time now. This is what parenting means. It's give and take, though.
It is give and take.
Have you started your video game catalog yet?
Oh well, I was expecting. So I listened to the podcast that we recorded just before Harriet went into birth, and I was so positive that I was going to watch movies. I was going to, play loads of games. I was going to get through my back catalogue of games, which is just ever growing. No, didn't happen. Really,
I think you'll notice that me and Alex were laughing at you when you were saying all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a surprise that you thought that the whole time. But
just a lot of Hearthstone instead. Just on the bedside.
And Pocket, right? You've been playing lots of Pocket.
I've been playing so much Pocket. I've played a lot of Pocket.
Come on, Benjamin, you've got to give us more. We've spoken about Pocket with Jack already. We need some from you now.
We need your Pocket takes.
I actually really enjoy it. I think it should be. So I've done all the challenges, every single one. Put a bit of money into it, but not too much. Not a silly amount. I maybe 50 quid or something.
Are you the actual whale?
Am I swiping? Got to like level 24 or something, 23. But then just stopped. Yeah, just stop then. Just stop playing, because I think it needs to be more arcadey. I think it needs to be like more, give me a reason as to why I should come back kind of thing. But I kept thinking, because I was playing Hearthstone so much, like Battlegrounds or Bob, as we like to call it, and I'm like, they need to make an auto battler. Pokemon need to make an auto battler.
It's such an easy win for them, right? It's such an easy win.
So much money as well.
I know.
They would make bank with that. I would quit every other game and I would just play that. Like,
I'm begging them. I would be an all day, all night Pokemon Battleground streamer.
I was thinking in my head, like, how I would do it, because you got Hearthstone and you got the types, and then you got like those kind of synchronizations between types, but then you've got you know, the little trinkets or quests or whatever
Yeah,
you call them. But then with TFT, you've got like 2 different types and how they battle. And then, but you could have like Rockets Pokemon and like the types, and you can.
I mean, yeah.
Pokemon,
the Pokemon model, the
yeah.
Pokemon model's already there for them to use, right? Like evolution's
a
easy.
lot of
Like there's already the typing triangles and this, that, and the other. There's so much that they already have as a base, and there's been unofficial ones that have been pretty decent actually. But ones that if it was just a smooth working client that the Globe was in touch with, it would be absolutely monstrous.
Pokemon who 100%. Don't evolve just can be like a part of a tribe, which just powers up.
Exactly.
You could do like baby Pokemon, right? You could do baby Pokemon or like.
But also, it's nice to have those sorts of Pokemon that could be like early game bombs because they're like higher statted than some of the evolving stuff, but then they fall off, right? So you use them to like leverage cash and then pivot off them to game plan strategies. Like there's so much depth to auto battlers. But the framework of Pokemon is so good for it, especially because it has thousands of characters to choose from already.
100%, yeah, so many.
What happened with that very unofficial thing? Because I never got a chance to like try it.
I think it's still going. I've not played it. I've only watched it. But
I tried it, but I think the client was so busy because so many people were trying to access it. Actually, playing the game was quite difficult. But, it was okay though. It was good, but there just wasn't enough to it. Because it is so unofficial, and it's a good game. Don't get me wrong, and there must have been a lot of effort put into it. But of course, it's just the user experience, isn't it?
What was it called, Rab? Can you remember what it was called?
No. Pokemon Arena. Pokemon Arena.
So I think that something like that.
Something like that.
I've only watched it. Haven't played it.
I forced my phone to be able to play it, but obviously it doesn't work. But I keep trying to like join random games, and it would just kick me out.
Tim is kind of the auto battler king, isn't he, of the group?
Yeah.
So any new auto battlers,
king,
he kind of comes up and puts in the chat, and I tried it out. It was okay.
So Pocket, yay or nay out of 10? How many WAPs? How many WAPs? Yeah.
Well, there's only 3. There's only 3 Rabbies.
Oh, that is
there's only 3. There has to be 10 for this one. But I want to say probably about 7. Enjoyable.
7.
It needs an extra bit of yeast. It needs to rise a little bit more,
Yeah, I'm very much at the point of I'll wake up, I'll open my pack, I'll do my wonder pick, and then I'll see you again tomorrow. That's my only interaction with the game now.
I'm missing the Mewtwo. That's the only illustration one I'm missing. I got the other 2.
After all that money you spent.
There you go.
After all those millions. After all the millions I've spent on
food out of Nellie's mouth into pocket.
I showed her. I said, "Look at this.
This is for you.
You don't need those anti-colic bottles. Just look at the Zard.
You're just going to trade her some pocket cards when that trading stuff comes in. Huh?
I was telling some of the other boys, as soon as she can shuffle, it's
over.
She's on the circuit. She's doing everything.
Right. Speaking of milk, you're milking her dry already.
It's a money-making scheme.
I can't imagine Mason actually shuffling cards right now. He'll just destroy them. He'll just crumble.
Yeah. Well, if you actually watch a lot of juniors play, a lot of their cards are just so like bent out of shape because they can't.
Joe refuses to watch because it hurts his eyes.
Yeah,
all of those cardboard just taking damage every time.
I'd be asking for a judge shuffle every time, please.
Just kind of clicking your fingers. My son needs a judge shuffle.
Don't let him bend my Mew. God's sake.
They're my cards. They're my cards. I paid for them. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, so like I say, it's good to hear that everyone's doing as well. It's like actually we didn't even hear whether Harriet's doing okay. It's all about
she's good. She's good. I mean, obviously she's had her own experience in the situation as well. I mean, I was basically just standing there like a gnome. I could have been an inanimate object, and you
weren't offering any support, or you were just.
Oh, of course I was. I was doing
like
I was kind of doing like the breathing and stuff like that we wanted to do, but that kind of flew out the window, of course, in the scenario that we had. But yeah, she's doing fine. She's doing really well. Both happy and healthy, which is the main thing.
Yeah, good to hear.
Good.
We were busy partying, Alex, at the weekend, weren't we?
I think I've just about recovered.
Partying down.
Yeah, shout out to Shay, 30
Yeah,
years old.
Mr. Burst
It's been,
TCG.
yeah. Oh, nice. Happy
He's,
birthday.
yeah. I kept
Join the club.
kept mocking him for a while that he was the same age as Joe. That they both just
What's
got
wrong with
like bad backs, bad knees.
Yeah.
You're
yeah.
older than us.
I didn't say I don't have that.
Agree
I
with
have
he's
that. I
part
have
of
that
it.
times two. Yeah.
But he was saying he feels really old, and I was like, I don't feel any different from when I
No.
was like 22.
Maybe.
21, I was way better, but as soon as I hit 22, I've hit that
I mean, you
same level
start.
now.
You obviously start to lose hope, but it's not.
Yeah.
It does kind of feel like as soon as you hit this kind of big milestone, something goes wrong. Like,
I went wrong so early though. Like my debilitating illness was so early.
What,
I could always get worse.
Kids?
No, I mean when I did I don't have kids.
I mean, you could have-
That I know of. I'm pretty certain I don't have kids. There's a very low likelihood. No, I mean like when your body because you hear it like in sport and stuff. I think we're always like because the level in sport is so high that even losing like 2% makes you no longer like at the top level. So like when you hear he's like at the end of his career at 29, you're like bloody hell.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel that different really. But it's like I guess as soon as I had my knee injury, I've just like felt the same the whole time since.
That's interesting.
That's the hang of the boots. It's funny you say
Literally.
that. It's funny you say that because I was watching Liverpool on Sunday, and of course Mo Salah came up just before the game, and then it said age 32, and then the commentators were saying, "Oh, is it potentially could be getting on a bit next year?" And I exactly the same feeling. I was like, "Oh."
Well, did you immediately see him take his shirt off after his
Yeah.
goal? The guy is
jacked.
unbelievable.
Incredible shape.
Yeah.
I'm not that far, but
I'm not that far. Please, I mean, for the fans, we'll get that out one day.
We'll get the calendar out.
Harriet said the other day, I love your non-gym bod, and I was like, non-gym, like as in I don't look like I go to the gym at all.
I mean, she could have said like dad bod
So depressing.
or something. No,
not dad bod. Non-gym.
Specifically non-gym.
So,
Specifically non-gym.
I like that I can't see a single muscle coming out of you. Not a single bulge anywhere.
Sorry, I'm getting flashbacks of Ben running through EUIC in his short shorts, going for a
there you
jog
go.
with a-
Oh yeah, remember that?
in a vest.
There's a couple.
Sorry, what? What is this?
Did you? I think
an
EUIC or Worlds. It was one of them.
Worlds. It might have been Worlds.
'Cause it
Yes,
must-
it was
Worlds,
Worlds.
you were jogging through the village.
I was staying with Tim in a shipping container hotel, which was great, by the way. That's on the Canary Wharf. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go for a run.
Yeah.
And I brought my running stuff because, of course,
Oh, this is in London.
Describe the running stuff first, please, because you were.
I wore a
High
vest,
vis.
And I'll tell you my
vest.
image, Joe, afterwards.
a vest, running shorts, which are short, and just a pair of trainers. But also, was I wearing a fanny pack?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in
Was
my what
Was
what
I?
I remember was you remember the 118 men.
Yes.
Yes.
Vividly.
Yeah, but shorter shorts. And when I say short shorts,
The best part about
I
it,
had a double take. It was just like that's not
the
him.
best part
I don't know
about
this
it,
guy.
I think I asked
That's
Connor
not
about
him.
half an hour before. I asked Connor if he could pick me up one of the far-fetched leaks. So then I had to walk back or run back in my
Like that with
shorts
a
and
leak.
vest with a fanny pack and a leak. Just like
There it is. I mean, the leak's
Unbelievable.
right there.
The leak made it back.
probably, yeah. Oh, the leak made it
That
back.
very leak.
That very leak.
That's unbelievable. The 118 men. What a throwback.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. That was. Yeah. Anyway, let's actually move on. We've had enough fun. But yeah. Oh, sorry. We didn't actually really talk about it. But yeah, happy birthday to Shay. That was only yesterday. It was yesterday.
It was yesterday, yeah.
It's got plenty of likes and things and all this stuff. But yeah, good fun weekend. I saw a lot of Joe. I'm seeing more Joe this weekend, it seems. Good or bad. But
Yeah.
whilst we were partying it up with Shay, we did have our first event in Sacramento in our Surging Sparks meta. Benjamin, you said you've caught up with it recently, right?
Yeah.
Or have you not yet? Okay.
Yeah. I watched it over the weekend.
First thoughts?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. I thought
That's not what you said pre-pod.
well, yeah, okay. Pre-pod. I was only impressed that I was only unimpressed at the fact that there were no cards from Surging Sparks that were in their own archetype. A lot of the cards that were just kind of complementing existing archetypes. So there wasn't any kind of break. I don't think there would have been, because I don't think any of the cards were particularly powerful enough to build a core deck around, like
Mhm.
an Executor or something like that. So I was interested in how a lot of the cards would complement, like I said, existing archetypes. And was I more surprised that Pikachu made it in Miraidon more than Lost Box? Probably.
I mean, it also
Um,
brought back
wow.
Lost Box in a big way as
It
well.
did 100%, but I wouldn't have expected Miraidon to make as much of an impact. But in saying
That's more
that,
of a Magneton. That's more Magneton than Peak, right? Pikachu's a small
as
upgrade, but the
as well as
Magneton's a
that,
big upgrade.
but I also think then looking back on it, comeback mechanics now are so inefficient. Ino and Roxanne are just, the stocks are just so low that I think now the game is turning into a more of a,
But
can I get ahead of the prize
Surging
race
Sparks-
faster than you?
Did Surging Sparks change that?
Not necessarily, no. But I think Pikachu, in that sense, having the kind of block, you're not taking a knockout this turn, advantage was obviously a lot for Miraidon, because I think Miraidon being able to hit big numbers and big numbers fast, I think is at his advantage, and then Pikachu having that kind of stall tactic when needed, which I think Miraidon was missing, that kind of single prize or any other sort of deterrent, and that has that obviously is thriving. So
I mean, Pikachu doesn't really do anything in Miraidon. It's just better than Mewtwo because it has one less retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it offers the block, but it also offers the area 0 as well, and then it has the
Yeah, I'm saying it's the same as Mewtwo, right? But it's really not that different to Mewtwo. The only thing they can't do is just take out the Terra that then limits your bench.
Sure.
Now they can just Stadium Bounce.
Yeah.
But it's really not that. It like in terms of upgrade for the deck, it's all Magneton and Lati. It's not Pikachu at all. Like Pikachu is obviously better, but that's not the thing that moves the dial, I would say.
Okay. Joe, a very quick summary for you of Sacramento.
I was actually I was very surprised by the Miraidon finals, to be honest. Like, even though I knew Magneton was a big boon for Miraidon in that you just have more fuel and you have Raichu as a viable one-shot guy. It's clearly like a better deck inherently, but I thought the fear of Pikachu would mean there's less Lugia, which was the case. Which meant that I was a bit worried to actually play Miraidon. I didn't think its positioning was particularly good. Like, I was thinking that there would be more Lost Zone box, which is kind of bad for this Miraidon, and less Lugia, so I thought the positioning would be worse for this deck. But it just turns out that, I suppose, just the inherent strength of the deck pushes it enough, even if there aren't necessarily as good of a matchups. Because Miraidon's been this, like, I can spike a tournament if I pick the right weekend from like a metagame standpoint, but I don't think it's had that true power level behind it for a few months now. But possibly that's just a difference maker in that you can consistently churn out your attacks without needing like good RNG on generators. Now you have Raikou, which is cheaper, and a Magneton's a free 3 energy. So it's a lot less gacha than it used to be, I suppose. So in a vacuum, it has just really jumped up a lot.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'll challenge a couple of things, but we don't obviously have the full data for Sacramento Regionals. Limitless currently haven't got it updated. I'm sure Robin will get that sorted in due course.
Come on, Robin.
Hurry up.
He's too busy uploading all these junior and senior IC results.
Unbelievable. He's carrying the whole community on his back. I'm still having a go.
I would normally have ended that sentence with that no one would want to see, but that's obviously a joke. So I didn't say that. I held myself back. Moving on. Day 1, Sacramento, I guess is probably something pretty cool to actually kind of look at. The reason why I would challenge around the Miraidon point, obviously it did make the finals. Both finalists were Miraidon. But I don't know how many Miraidons were actually played in the whole tournament as of yet, and how well other Miraidons done. Maybe they're the ones that hit the right matchups, right? With the Day 1 deck analysis, though, finally we got to see Regidrago at the very top of the tree, 13.3%. Raging Bolt was still there. The meta in its entirety hasn't really changed that much. like Ben mentioned, a lot of decks sort of got new cards and new tricks to play with.
Yeah.
And then Charizard EX was third, before sort of a bigger drop off to Lost Zone Box, Lugia, Gardevoir, and I'm sure a host of other sort of 4-5% decks. But that day one graphic was only just over 50%, which is kind of crazy.
Actually, pretty terrifying. I think Lugia is likely to stick around this sort of 6-7% threshold. I don't think it stays in that sort of 12% that we've been seeing, because the threats, certainly of Miraidon, but also Pikachu before that, is a real threat, even just in Lost Zone Box. So I think that's like the new norm for Lugia. Like, it's actually a risky deck now, whereas before you were just battling against yourself. Now you actually have bad matchups to deal with as well. The Charizard one's still surprising to me. I still feel like it's an overplayed archetype, to be honest with you.
I like it right now. I think it's
okay.
Maybe post Sacramento.
Now that Miraidon's done well, I like it a bit more. But yeah. Like, I still feel like the first checkpoint is going to be Drago, and like you said, Alex, finally it is top of the billing in terms of popularity. But even then, it's only 13%, which isn't crazy. Lost Box, I was expecting it to be on the graphic. And I think that's a deck that can stay, depending on if it just completely flopped this tournament. I don't know. I imagine because with so much Drago success, there won't be many in top 32. But there could definitely be a handful. And then, what was I going to say?
Guardy right at the end.
Guardy right at the end.
I mean,
the only other thing I wanted to say was just online, Ceruledge had like a ton of popularity, but I think this does show that there is just very clear differences between the online scene and the competitive environments.
And the other deck that you don't want to name.
And Hydreigon was the 7th most popular. Didn't make top 8, which is weird. Just let me double check. No top 8s.
I don't understand this ongoing joke. Is this because Joe completely dissed it? And
I'm pretty against it, and for some reason our bloody Discord keeps wanting me to build it or play it or just generally ask about a card that should never have any discussion.
It's not even just the Discord. I feel like there's plenty of online resources about it.
I saw was there a masterclass about it today? Yeah, something like that. So like, but my main distaste of Hydreigon is like the set was so bad that content creators had to look to a card like this to like hype it up just to find something to talk about in the first weeks of this set.
It's more trying to throw your fellow content creators under the bus there, Jeff.
Listen, get the cheddar, do your thing, but like also don't lie to the people. Is my only stance.
It's like going back to what I said. It's something new, right? It's a whole new archetype. So I think that's why it's kind of upsurge in popularity. New. But it's not good.
No,
but it's something new for people to play, as is Hydreigon and Flygon, if you want.
Honestly, it could end up getting a top 16 at some point in the Surging Sparks format.
How highly did you rate Gouging Fire before, like when it came out, Joe?
I mean, pretty bad.
It had a lot more going for it with Sardas and stuff, I guess, and Basin.
I mean, it's always had the synergies. But it's pretty much always been the case of like, why would you play this over the other aggro decks, which is still like the question it has to answer. I think right now the answer is that you beat the random nonsense. Like, you're pretty good into Lost Zone Box just because you have Fluttermane and like Bravery Charms and Switch Cart and stuff, and you're really good against like Thorns and the controlling archetypes, and these are the things that the other aggro decks don't fall in line, but their trade-off is that they are much more consistent than Gouging Fire. But it's taken a specific list to be constructed of Gouging Fire that wasn't there before, right?
Yeah,
I was about to say
might be. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say something similar. Like, why would you play Ceruledge over Golden Go?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the right question to ask, Rab.
Yeah, I don't know why you would play it over even.
I think the only answer is Briar. That's the only answer that a Ceruledge player can come back at you with. But I do think drawing cards is fundamentally better than Ceruledge. That can just do the same amount of damage and has a cheeky uptrade option. Because Dengo, to succeed, has to cheat prizes either with like Palkia or Dusknoir or Togekiss. So it does have to find cheating, whereas Ceruledge can just use Palpat Briar. So.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this tournament also marks the first one that was in the new quote-unquote structure following the mid-season update.
Crazy.
Where I'm now showing the day 2 deck analysis, by the way, if anyone is watching. But over 300 players made it into day 2 at a minimum 16-point threshold. So 5 wins and 1 tie now gets you into a day 2. Pokemon acknowledging that you pretty much will never make top cut if you enter day 2 on this sort of record. I don't know, maybe there's a crazy world where you somehow do, but yeah, highly unlikely. But a crazy field again with 300 players as well. We're back to kind of the numbers that we had last year, right? In the US and the EU tournaments. I don't think, did we ever get to 300 in EU? Well, I can't really remember.
I think so.
But yeah, crazy. Numbers wise, just to quickly run it through, if you might not have it up on your screens, boys. Regidrago stayed at the top, increased in sort of representation, 17%. Raging Bolt still did okay, 12.5%. Charizard didn't move either, 9.5%. Lost Zone Box, again, didn't move. Gardevoir stuck around, and then Lugia was replaced by Golden Go in the very end. The deck we've obviously just mentioned. But again, what's interesting here is that in reality, that meta didn't really shift from day 1 and day 2 representation. If in fact, the majority, all of these decks actually went up in representation, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Which
is quite unique, right? Normally something falls off completely, like a little bit, but sticks around.
I guess that higher than normal percentage of other decks were just the ones that weren't doing well, rather than the meta decks not performing. So it shows that these are the meta decks for a reason, in that they are beating the random nonsense that people decided to bring to the tournaments. And I think, Drago doing like the best, I suppose, of the bunch makes sense. And the Lugia drop-off is also possibly to be expected if Miraidon is just out of the 5% by a small margin, for example. And if Lost Box, was a new element in the room that's to be contended with, I think there's obvious reasons to point as to why Lugia had a bad weekend.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, otherwise we're just talking about a very similar sort of field to what we've actually just seen. But yeah, like you said, Joe, there's a lot of top players still playing and picking up Regidrago. No sign of Terrapagos EX. Surprise or not a surprise?
For me, it's not hugely surprising because it's a new deck that does fear Pikachu. 290 is the hit points that you boast as Terrapagos with boofs, and Pikachu doesn't care. And you're a combo deck that doesn't really want to give up spaces to play cards like Cologne, where it's just like a no-use card in every other situation. So even like someone like me looking at next weekend, I would tell myself, like, why would I not play Palkia? If I want to play Cologne in a Noctowl deck anyway, I can use this Cologne to then do shenanigans into a ton of matchups with Greninja instead. So it's like, even though it's just a one cards that you have to concede into that deck, it's so annoying because Terrapagos is already like combo based and runs itself quite thin. But it's also just like, if I have to do this nonsense and play an inconsistent version of the deck I want to play, why don't I just play another deck anyway? So it's probably low in representation. And I don't think we have to fear Pikachu so much that we can't play the deck anymore. Like, it's only going to be around this 8% or whatever at most, I think, for Lost Box. So it's not like you can't play Turtles anymore. But I think it's just like an extra reason to not want to play it this weekend when there's still more questions to be asked of the meta.
Ben,
it's another deck that's
interesting. I was going to say,
it's just a deck that gets more complex over time, right? As new threats emerge, the deck will become more convoluted, and more people will be put off by playing it just because of how kind of difficult it is to play in this meta. And plus, we have such a wide meta as well. We have threats coming from all over the place in terms of stage 2, but also basics as well. And I think I wouldn't be inclined to play a Dusknoir based combo deck if there are going to be a lot of kind of strong high HP Pokemon around, and especially the effect of Pikachu, like Joe said there, but also the ongoing threat of the other decks in the meta. The only thing I was kind of surprised by with deck representation, with Lost Box is obviously gained representation while Terrapagos is finished. So, Joe, would you see that as the deck where people have gone, oh, I'm not going to be playing Terrapagos this weekend, I'm going to be playing Lost Box because of that kind of, if I'm going to be playing complicated, I may as well play Lost Box?
Possibly. Maybe, yeah, I know what you're saying. There's probably a Venn diagram of people who enjoy playing complicated decks, and that's like quite high between the two. So I could see that being in the thinking. But I also think like Charizard and Drago also fits that bucket as well, Guardy to an extent. So I think there's a good amount of high level, difficult to play decks in the meta. It's just like Terapagos is a really strong but also fragile deck in that having to play the Cologne, the Vacuum, the this, that, the other. It's just like it's so frustrating to have to put these additional cards in when we're trying to do this very delicate balancing act with the deck the whole time. So...
And it's not like it's an ongoing thing either, right? It's not like you're drawing these cards. It's like you're having to select them from Noctowl, right? So
well, no, I think purely from opening hand, because you can do all that selecting. All you want is your opening hand to be viable, and then you draw those hands a little bit more or a little less frequently because you've got this stupid Cologne sat in your opening 7 that doesn't get you to Rotom. Like it's oftentimes going to be that cut of a Rotom or a Poffin or like something like that has to be chopped in order to play all these luxury cards, right, to win matchups. And I think that's what puts me off Turtle a little bit.
I think what I was referring to is there's kind of the fragility of it, because if you make one kind of small mistake in one particular matchup from one Jewel Seeker ability, you kind of
but you shouldn't go into a regional making mistakes with your deck, right? I think there will obviously be players that do, but I think if you're choosing a deck, you've at least got some. No. I'm saying if you're choosing to play a deck, you've at least given yourself enough reps to know how to play your own deck, right? At least to like 70% proficiency.
All I'm hearing is if I'm Joe, I don't make a mistake. That's all I'm hearing.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm saying that I at least know how my own deck functions.
Right. Let's
do we know where Terapagos came?
No, I mean we don't really have it. I was quickly scanning to see if there's anyone who posted anything.
It'd have to come 6th or 7th though, right? Surely.
In popularity, they won.
It wouldn't be that far from Garden.
I'd be stunned if it was below like 3%. Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised by that.
I imagine there were a good bunch of decks that were still at that kind of 5% range, who just didn't make the top 6, but would have been exactly the same as Lugia and Guardi.
Right.
Do we think, off topic as well, do we think people are still disrespecting Goldingo? Because I think it's great. I think it's really good into the price.
Is this your hot take of the week now that you're back on the pod?
You've always loved Goldengo.
Roaring Moon before.
I've always been a fan of Goldengo.
And you know this.
I know. I've always been it's just such a good deck. I just don't know why people aren't playing it. Come on. No, in all seriousness, I think in a format where we are so which is so orientated around the kind of prize switching. If I can get 2 prizes ahead of you, I am so far having such an advantage going into the rest of the game. I don't know why Goldingo is not being played as much, because I think it's very good into that.
Do you like Victor Del Velasco's technology in his deck?
Which is?
The Togekiss.
So that was first. I was first told about the Togekiss in locals, and I was a bit like,
Oh, so you
because
your locals came up with it, did you?
No. I didn't know.
It's been going around online from the start of the set.
I like it. I think at first I thought Goldingo was too not fragile, but I keep using that phrase fragile, but too I don't know, too linear. I thought the deck strategy was too narrow to play a stage 2 or even another stage 1. I sometimes think Palkia is too much in it, but you obviously have to play it. Well, you don't have to.
We need one of those. You need a combat trick, because otherwise you will be trying to attack your first Goldengo into a 1 prizer at some point in the game, and it will lose you the game.
I think if you're playing the Togekiss and you manage to, well, the question I had when I first saw it was, what turn do you expect this to get this up? What turn do you expect to get this?
Well, I don't think you sacrifice a huge amount to try and get it from turn 2, to be honest. I think oftentimes the deck will try and like cipher or do something like that rather than boss, because you can get a piece alongside your Pokestops and your coin bonuses and whatnot. And then you probably do have, I think in most games you have 2 chances to flip heads. So then on average, you're getting that 1 prize, which is pretty much all you want it for. But then there could also be the games where you get it early enough and then you have 3 bites of the cherry. and that's when it can feel disgusting.
And in other ways, I think you have the security of having just a 1 prize board for the first turn initially. I think
I mean,
you do have
that's its
you,
biggest selling point still.
you do, yeah, of course, and that's what gives it that kind of strength in the prize switch, the prize trade. But you do have also, Cypher Maniacs and then Irider as well. You have that surge ability for the Buddy Buddy Puffin, and of course the extra pieces the later turns on. So it's not like I was saying it's impossible to play the Togekiss efficiently. It's just in those tight spaces where you're having to immediately kind of respond into an attack. That's where I think things can kind of go a bit awry. Say if you're playing Miraidon and they get a turn 1 Iron Hands off on you, it gets a bit shady. Whether you still need the Togekiss in that.
I mean, Togekiss won't change that, right? Unless you get 2 heads.
That your game plan doesn't change when when it really changes is depending on how your opponent's taking the prizes or how it's kind of maneuvering its board state. So if it's just knocking you out of the 2 prize anyway, you're right. Okay, well I'll just keep combos.
I'll just knock
going.
Of course.
Return KO. It's when they somehow maneuvered a position where you've left themselves with a single prize or in the active, and you're like, well, I can't gust, so I might as well build a board so that I'm either potentially taking such a step ahead by taking 2 prizes on this, or an additional prize, to say.
Yeah.
I think
anything else.
I think the biggest advantage of it is, of course, against single prize decks, and I think with Lost Zone so high in representation, I guess that's where the biggest advantage is.
You could be wild and take the 1 prize, and then all of a sudden get it up and slam down on a 2 prizer as well if you want.
That's the thing, right?
It gives you a bit of utility. It's found a unique stage 2 partner, I think, because not every stage 2 would fit naturally into Golden Go. So I mean, it's got him to a 10-02 record. So right now, by the way, I've got up on the screen our top 9. I think we ended up in where there were sort of the Asymmetric Cup, which was a Charizard EX up against a Regidrago V-Star. But then alongside that were 4 other Regidragos, 2 Miraidons, which we've touched on a little bit, and what we're talking about right now in Golden Go. But yeah, a pretty wild top 8, top 9 in reality, right?
Drago is pretty busted. Drago is pretty busted, and it naturally isn't afraid of anything new, right? So
it gained 1 card as well.
I mean,
it's got the egg.
Got the egg.
Some people did play the egg. I guess, I mean, like, sure, Miraidon's a worry, but I don't think people expected Miraidon to be that popular. Like, now it's a worry, but I don't think going into this tournament there was any reason to be afraid of it.
I mean, we've always spoken pre-Surging Sparks, or when we started looking at Surging Sparks as a set, that the 1 card that would unlock a lot of these sort of fast prize racing type archetypes would be that Latias EX, right? Did one of them not even play it? Did he still?
Let me check.
I think I'm looking at it now. Yeah.
I might be
so
wrong.
Landon definitely did play Lati. Yeah. They both did play Lati.
Fine. Yeah. I think obviously we always kind of knew that was going to be a big card to go in these type of archetypes. So like the Miraidons, potentially into the Raging Bolts, or into things like your Ben's second favorite now, Roaring Moons. But it just unlocks so much, right? Gives so much space back if it doesn't need to have to always utilize and find a switch card to maneuver some big Pokemon out the active spot. Pikachu we've already touched on, 1 retreat now, so it's a little bit easier to maneuver around. And I've always been scared. I think this is maybe, again, thinking about pre-Worlds, playing Regidrago going into a Miraidon matchup. Never felt comfortable at all.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
And I guess one last thing, I think it's something that they've both maybe tweeted or both have said before. They outrightly have said it's blind go first against pretty much everything, right? Which a lot of people still maybe don't drum home enough when they play a deck like Miraidon, because they're thinking, let's just take the first 2 prizes nice and quick. But both these players have been able to come out and say it, and they're the ones who were in the final. So
I also think that's inherently, when you're playing Secret Box, even more so with this list, like, there's no reason for you to choose second with it. Like, bank your energy instead, be happy with that. Get yourself in a position to go hands, and then your next attacker, or go, Raikou is often the first attack you'll launch with the deck. but actually get yourself in that position to take out what you want rather than just like, oh, I guess they started a one prizer. I guess I got to get 4 energy on my guy and then still have enough fuel to carry on. Yeah. So I think the way it's built,
the deck is
tends
still
towards
so
that.
good against Lost Boxes as well. Regidrago. It still has so many options against Lost
Back
Box.
to Regidrago now.
Regidrago, you're confusing me. Yeah, I mean
Oh, sorry,
Regidrago's,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Regidrago. Yeah, I mean that was the main thing I meant in that I thought the main like deck coming back would have been Lost Box Peak going into this tournament, and you don't fear it at all as Drago, right?
No, sorry, did I go off topic? Sorry,
We were still talking about the nitty gritty of
Was I not
Miraidon,
listening?
but
Yeah.
No,
you'd
but, I
moved
mean,
on.
Yeah,
Carry on.
I mean, we'll just touch on some of these players because these are the pretty high level players that are picking up and playing Regidrago. Brent Tonneson yet again in another top cut, obviously following his LAIC second place. John Eng
Same
again
60
piloting
as well.
Regidrago. I think were they both playing same 60s? I know the Australians played John Eng's 60
Brent-
from Dortmund.
Brent played same 60, but John played a new list this weekend,
okay.
which had a Alolan Egg EX.
Yes, okay. Which
And
I
Terra
don't know.
Orb,
Interesting.
Yeah, the 1 Terra Orb. Yeah.
which gets exactly Ogerpon or Alolan Egg.
Yeah. I haven't quite worked out
good.
how much I like the Alolan Egg yet. I get it, I think, because it
Go
feels
on,
like
tell me your logic,
so from my
or
perspective,
why you think it's there.
It's matchups like Raging Bolt, right? Or I think it smooths over the 2/2/2 a little bit better.
Yeah,
because you can you just take a bench. Well, it doesn't matter which knockout as long as the knockout's being taken in effect almost. You're still the scary thing of falling behind, which obviously doesn't help, but that's my first initial thinking.
It's also very good into the control matchups, which is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's very true. It's very true. Reminder.
I mean, the first attack can get you out of some weird situations as well. Because I think a big weakness, I say a big weakness, it's not so much of a big weakness, but sometimes the tricky situation about Regidrago V-Star is the energy acceleration.
Yeah, it can do some tricky stuff there as well.
Yeah, I think the Tropical Frenzy can do some cool stuff with some energy retrievals, take a knockout, accelerate energy. I think it can get you out of some sticky situations.
It's bad, but it's not that bad. Like, I don't hate the card being in the
Am
list.
I speaking absolute tripe?
No. I mean, I think G-Shen also played Alolan Egg, right? So 2 of the lists played it.
It wouldn't surprise me if
yes.
Williams also
they did
in the ASIM cut as well. But yeah, it's an interesting card to try and incorporate into your list. Remember, it's a bench basic Pokemon, right? If you flip tails, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
That's right.
So it's yeah.
I was just knock it out.
And I guess in this some of the situations as well where you're prize trading, it's not. If you're in a position where you don't necessarily care and you're playing against, say, like a Roaring Moon, say if they frenzy gouging you,
back to that again,
can't take the heads, which is pretty good. Tails even.
I mean,
you're only ever announcing that attack when it's a no lose scenario, right? You never announce that attack. There's a chance you're going to completely lose the game off it. So it's only going to be those matchups where it's relevant.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think there was a number of sort of mirror matches. I think both Miraidons had to face Regidrago in top 8s, which they obviously were able to take down. I think, was it a Golden Go in the top 4 as well, which one of them had to take down?
Victor, yeah,
which was I think it wasn't. Maybe it was one of those times where it didn't actually draw very well, if I recall that matchup a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've spoken about it already. The Miraidons ended up facing one another in quite a unique final. Both decks, of course, playing no comeback mechanic cards that Benjamin's already mentioned. So it was like a soon. Oh,
what have you done? I can't hear you, mate.
Can you hear me now?
No. Yeah, now we can.
Yeah.
Was I monologuing the whole time without speaking to you?
No. Just you went. You did a little scream and then went.
You did a little
Some.
What was it like?
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. I'm lost now. But yeah, Miraidon finals.
No comeback. Yeah, no comeback cards.
Yeah, you said no
so
comeback
it
mechanics
meant
are
for
rubbish.
it meant for a pretty boring final, I would say.
I wouldn't have said that. Landon just set up his.
Can
board
he get
perfectly.
it when he's drawing like
I-
8 cards a turn?
I love those.
Yes, he got what he needed. Of course.
I love those games because
Well
they're just so.
done.
Do you know what I just
Joe,
imagined?
it's like a tennis match, Joe. You know, you go whoosh. You got to go back. And then...
I've just imagined. What is that kind of a very American thing where it's like the
inflatable.
dolls?
That's what I was going for. This I can't remember what it's called.
They're great.
Wacky, whizzy inflatable.
Joe's now googling.
What are you talking about?
I am.
That's good. That was just Joe's movement. If you're not watching
Oh,
the
like
video
the-
as well, just the inflatable
Anyway.
waving around. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the
What are they called? They have
like
a
the
ridiculous name, I'm sure.
used car lot.
Yeah,
used car
exactly,
salesman, like the-
exactly.
Yeah.
No, we need more gusto, more energy, Ben, more passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, more
energy.
passion.
But yeah, it was once Landon kind of got in a decent position. I don't think there was never a way that he could lose that, right? So, but congrats to them for taking down a regional tournament. Miraidon taking another tournament. I guess none of us expected that, right? We've kind of
I
seen
certainly
that
didn't.
already.
Yeah.
No.
Right. I'll just have a quick look. Was there anything interesting in those lists? I've got Landon's one right up here right now. We've already mentioned about the Magnetons. We know Pheasant Dipty's great in these kind of racing decks because you just lose your attacker.
It's just so many one-offs.
It is a lot of one-offs, but I mean,
so many.
But Don's been like that for a while. Like even
Yeah.
looking back to Parker's list for Worlds, it was lots of one-of Pokemon, 1 and 2 of Mons.
I mean, you can rely so heavily on Tandem Unit, right? One nest ball gets you pretty much.
Yeah, you rely on that,
Yeah,
and you can Arbon for
set you
heavy, so you don't
Yeah,
care.
sets
Like
you
you can
up
do
pretty
this. You can do the space cheating for boss. Like maybe that's like mildly surprising, but it just shows that.
Well, I think that's only
the,
because
the reason why I'm surprised is that you have an easier way to hands now. So like you can force a 2-prize turn on a lot of boards without the need for boss, which is like the only surprise. You play, hands, bundle, and quad boss and box. It means you're not missing, obviously, which is like the main takeaway, I suppose. But it's surprising to me that there are so many situations in which you have to boss. Like it's a habit where you want it, but also at the same time, I want to be cycling with Mew and Fez as much as possible as well.
I was just flicking over because I remember there being quite a few differences. So I'm on Kenneth's list now.
Yeah,
he's got the sort of free Irida, free boss.
Irida is pretty wild, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I think the 4 boss is instead of Prime Catcher, right? Because now they play the Secret Box.
Yes, but like this is what I'm saying, Rab, is that you don't necessarily need to gust that much in this deck. I don't think.
No.
You will have to gust almost always once, but I don't know if there's ever a game where you'll have to boss like 2 or 3 times by virtue of bundle hands and then having higher damage output plays as well.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's just better than having like a vacuum or something in the list. But yeah, Irida versus Arvon is the big difference between the 260s, I would say. And then like it's got Blood Moon as well. I mean, I don't mind Rotom at all. I've seen it in Dons before. I don't think that's super surprising. That's the thing. They're going first, right? So just end on good hands.
And on good terms.
I think I still like Blood Moon Ursaluna.
Yeah, I can see that being good. I mean, it's a bit less mandatory with the Magnet, but it lets you do it like into some of the stage 2s, for example. It lets you go Raichu, and then you know that Blood Moon is your end game. Whereas if you are in other situations, you Raichu, and then you're like, oh god, I've got to rebuild somehow.
do you like the combo of Magneton counter catcher? I mean, obviously it's lovely to synergize it very well, but how often do you reckon that came off? If they're going first, I guess it's generally quite.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. Yeah, I think it's fine to play.
1 counter catcher and 4 boss though from Landon.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying it's a lot, right? Yeah. To play the CC, whereas the second place list just plays 3 boss, no CC at all. So there is a discrepancy here between how valued Gust is between the 2 players. I would probably land on either just 4 boss or 3 boss CC, not the 4 and 1.
Yeah, I would like 4. I think
4 spaces committed. Yeah.
I'm trying to think whether I like Irida over Arvon. I do like Irida. Especially if you can go wide board very early. Like say you start Area 0 in hand. It can be pretty cool.
I just think I feel like Forest is too important to not play higher Arven as a priority. Like maybe you play 3 Arven, 1 Irida. But I would very, very rarely want Irida in this high of a count. Even with access to bundle.
Would you ever go 3-1, like 3 Arven, 1 Irida?
That's what I just said.
But would you do it?
I said I could see it, but I would probably play 4 Arven though.
Yeah, 4 boss. Yeah.
The cool thing about a mid game Irida is that you can get your like. Oftentimes mid game, obviously Arven feels rubbish, right? Because you've already used Forest, and like sure you can grab your Bravery Charm, but that's not a huge deal. Whereas here you can grab your immediate item for the turn, which is probably like Generator, right? And then you go Generator and then hold Fish, and I think that can be a nice feeling for the late game.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots to like. I mean, how much of an uptick what percentage would you see Miraidon being for? Well, we'll start talking about it now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean,
people do love playing Miraidon.
Stuttgart's on the horizon. It's in a few days' time. Joe, you're going to be playing. Ben, obviously, you're still on nappy duties. What's your thoughts on Miraidon uptick? It has to be an uptick.
I mean, people love playing Miraidon. That's always been a thing. Like, I mean, who doesn't love Electric Generator, right? And
it's also not like it's different enough to feel like a new deck, but not so different that it's going to intimidate people even with a week. I think
that's the thing. It feels new enough, but also it feels familiar enough as well to be. Oh, I'm going to have a go at Miraidon now, and especially if it's just come first and second at a regionals. I think people will be inclined to sleeve it up.
I'd be shocked if it got above 7%, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that. I feel like it will be day one, like above 5%.
It'll be on the graphic for sure, but how far people can take it, I don't know. I don't know whether this tournament was just a kind of shock in the pan, if that's not even a phrase.
Shock in the pan.
Shock in the pan.
Hello, chocolat.
I'm so tired. I'm not even listening to half of you most of the time.
I've noticed.
I don't know whether it was just just a one-off scenario, or whether it'll carry on.
I mean, the area 0 allows you to play into Bolt fairly well. You're obviously, like as you said, Alex, you're quite happy seeing Drago. That's still the selling points, even without so much Lugia. I think there are good selling points here, and like hands, and having the pressure of hands, but way less burnout that you used to suffer with Miraidon means you do just like get ahead, stay ahead, which we've been saying for a few months is where we're at in the meta for the most part. When there's a 4 energy Pokemon in the active position, you have to deal with that, which means there's a Mew and a Fez sat on the board to just reload them immediately. So any INO shenanigans does nothing.
I don't know how much of a difference right now our day one deck analysis will be to what we got in Sacramento. Maybe the percentages obviously might shift because we might start to hone in again, because obviously it went very wide based on Sacramento. But if you took Miraidon into a field that was what that top 6 was, so Regidrago, Raging Bolt, Charizard, Lost Zone, Box, Lugia, and Gardevoir, I don't think you'd be feeling too bad at all. You'd feel pretty good about yourself. That's 50% of the field, or 50% of the rounds that you're going to be facing.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially now that, as you've already said, Charizard used to be very bad, let's say. It's probably a little bit better now because you can blow up with a Raichu a little bit easier because of Magneton when you need to, and then still utilize hands going early and forcing so much pressure. Gardevoir's, I guess, still quite similar as well. I mean, we're back to the kind of racing Gardevoir now, where they've got the rare candies.
I'm slightly surprised there's no vacuum in these lists, to be honest. I feel like that's a good inclusion against Bolt as well as Guardy, because of how you're just saying, Alex. That's how Guardy's built now. Yeah. I feel like Vacuum's just a good card right now, but yeah.
I felt like that before going into LASE, I think. Well, it still was, right? I mean, ever since Caleb won with Raging Ball, I feel like it was just going to take some decent damage for it. Any surprises? Do you think Terrapagos will suddenly appear back on the meta graphic?
I mean, I feel Terrapagos is pretty okay into Dawn, and I don't think I don't think it's great into Lost Box, which might be my concern.
Mm.
Even if you play Cologne, they can do some weird shenanigans with Greninja, and there's threat there. So it's like you probably have to play Booth, and then it's still not good into the peak. So I don't know.
It becomes too convoluted, I think.
I think maybe there's more. Yeah, maybe there's like more people putting Lugia down or Gardevoir down because of Dawn that Terapagos makes onto the graphic by virtue of that, but I don't see it breaking 8%.
What do you think our top 6 will be, boys?
I still think Drago will be the most popular.
One.
I think Bolt will still be second most popular.
Yeah.
I still think Zard will be popular as well.
You think Zard third? I could still see Zard third.
I can still see Zard third.
I think Zard sticks around third or fourth. 3 more decks.
I'd probably go still Lost Zone in 4.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Then maybe Turtle.
I'd still put Guardy top 6.
Turtle, Guardy.
Guardy 5, then Turtle. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Turtle 6.
I mean, of course, the way the decks are bucketed on Limitless is always something. Well, not Limitless, on the deck analysis, RK9 stuff. It's still something to kind of dive in, and then obviously we get more details as Limitless kind of gets more of the data as well. But I think that's a pretty solid 6, right? Ben, sorry, I jumped in whilst you were...
No. I just thought, am I being silly and saying, why is nobody playing Snorlax?
I think you're right to say that. And that's going into this weekend going to be a big question, I think, because there's been 2 Latiases winning and no switching. Well, I think it's an obvious thing for everyone to see. But it's a great segue, Rab, so I'll give you that. Is that we've just not mentioned Lugia for the first time. As in, like, it could still be the back end of day 1 representation, but probably nowhere near as much.
I still think Lugia wasn't... I don't think Lugia was still... there wasn't enough of a threat for me to not play Snorlax. I don't think.
You have to...
I mean, it would be for a lot of players, I would say. That was always the thing that gets thrown at them, right? But then, this Latias thing is the new reason to play Lax, right?
It's the new way, and I don't think people can go back to switch outs with it, just because of the massive benefit of playing the Latias. I don't think people can.
I don't even know
their card spots for 2 or 3 switch outs now, just because it is so easy to play. So I just think Snorlax is a no-brainer for some people to play now.
So for me, I don't know if it's Snorlax. I mean, I'm following the same trend of saying that a deck like Snorlax should be doing well. I actually if I was going into this tournament and going to pick up a deck and had enough time with it, I think I'd play Pidgeot Control. I was about to say as well. Overblock Snorlax and it being sort of having a soft lock because of things like cancelling Cologne or like a soft counter. I don't think there's as much of a counter to Sob or Tempting Trap. Or those kinds of attacks right now. And I think, I mean, if you just went, I don't know if anyone would ever do this, but we've had decks and matchups that go into something like Miraidon in this new build where they've got 1 switch card, and you can just, if there's a deck that you are just bad into, like Miraidon, you put 1, you could theoretically put 1 Tempting Trap more while down.
It's so splashable.
Win you the game. Yeah. I mean, it's very unlikely in this scenario. We haven't had like a deck like that for a while where they've just included 1 card and it will just completely spin the matchup if you don't see it game 1, for example. But I think
Drago Morwile is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, why not?
I mean, we've seen it before, right? Like people would put Morwile in their Lozzards.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see it coming back. Yeah. I can definitely see it coming back, as well as just an inclusion of just the 1. Well, I guess obviously Morwile's more. I guess it's more splashable than Teal Mask. But
it's a colorless
no,
attack.
Sorry, it's not Teal Mask, is it?
Wellspring.
Of course it's not. Wellspring. Wellspring Mask.
But that's at the front of my mind right now. I would.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm a big fan of Pidgeot Control right now. If I was
very fair.
Maybe not the first tournament because, like you said, it was very widespread. But if you put some thought into maybe where the meta's shaping up and would likely go following these results, I think you can put a pretty good Pidgeot Control deck together and actually do pretty well.
I can see it. See it for sure.
That's my take for the weekend.
Yeah,
I,
that would be mine as well. Play live.
I was
Laps.
exploring with Lost Zone Peak for a while. I've been playing a lot of Gouging Fire.
Of course.
And my Hail Mary is bringing Conkeldurr to the tournament. So if I've downed tools by Friday, you'll know because I'll be conking people on Saturday morning.
Have you got Whimsicott Brain again?
Whimsicott Brain.
Do you think
You
anyone
know
will
it doesn't
bring
end well, Joe. You know it doesn't end well.
Will anyone be bringing it with you? Is a real question.
What do you mean?
Will there be any other players in this how many player field at Stuttgart that'll be playing conking as well?
I'd say there's always 1 to 2 people.
You reckon there's 1 or 2?
Look at Joe and say, "I'll play while he's playing."
I don't think people will follow me into battle with Conkeldurr.
So if we see the messages on Friday night saying, "Has anybody got 4 timber?"
Yeah.
We know
I've got the cards. Don't worry. I've rooted them out. I rooted them out months ago.
Oh God.
It's the funny thing of like I have actually nothing to play for, and I could just be at the end of my rope.
What about
I could just be at the end.
Tatsugiri?
No. I don't have. I'm not paying money for tattoos and slackings and all that stuff. I'm not doing that. But like, Conk is a fun ladder deck, so it's like a fun experience for me to play in person as well. I feel like I'd have fun interactions all day with people. It's kind of like a rekindling of my love of the game. Cry for help to take Conkeldurr to a tournament.
You'd literally be giggling to yourself every time you'd be taking a poison.
That's the thing. I'd be so chuffed.
Your opponent would be just pissed off.
Yeah.
That's not
they'll love it.
Oh, he got gutsy swing off turn 2. Of course I lost.
I couldn't. What can I do?
What can I do? What can you do?
I know we don't have the full breakdown of this, but I know on Twitter there was a pretty cool top 32 Clorf Terrapagos Area 0 deck.
Oh yeah, I can bring that.
Which utilizes that trolley, and so this is like my obsession with. I just think that Mochi is such a powerful card in terms of damage mod that I want to make it work in any way possible. And Trolley is a card that kind of unlocks this combination of Bonnet plus Sneasler. And there was this top 32 list that's pretty cool. It uses Oranguru V to pull out your tools for you, which gives you donk potential with Baby Petch, but also allows you to get like very aggressive early game Clorf, very aggressive Terrapagos because you can fill your bench. And Terrapagos goes up to 260, and then Poison Ticks is what KOs V-Star Pokemon. And that's really important because then you get around Fez as well. So I think there's actually a lot of cool stuff with that deck. Yeah. And that's probably like what I should be playing if I was trying to still play this package of cards and do well. But I haven't played it enough to like not just play Conkeldurr instead.
Do you know what? So I've got the tweet up. I just had the list up. I was looking through.
It's good, but it's not Conkeldurr, is it?
Yeah, go on. Through the matchups. There's a donk. He had a donk count of 4 during his 12 rounds of the game. It is very interesting. And then I read. Oh, well, I actually saw on the standings as well. There's a player called Patrick Ratty who used to play in the UK. Yeah. Ratty. Yeah. I haven't seen that name in ages.
I know he got credit for the list, right? Or at least helped with the list.
And he top 32 as well. So I was, I'm still in.
Oh, so there could be 2 of them playing the same 60? Wow. It's a very cool idea. It's literally just like, I will lead Clorf, because that can KO a V, and then I go into Turtles and Blood Moon. And Blood Moon is busted with Mochi as well, of course, because you can hit 300 essentially with it, which is really, really powerful. And yeah, Turtle with a damage mod that isn't Dustoir is also like really intimidating. So I think you probably do farm V-Star matchups with that deck. I just don't know how good you are into the stage 2 decks if you don't donk them with a cheesy Petra turn. I think a lot of the losses was actually to Gardevoir, and I can see that being a really hard matchup.
There were 2 losses to Gardy, but they did beat 1 as well in day 2.
Okay, fair enough.
There was a Chen Pao in top 16.
Yes, apparently so.
Yes.
Well, that's what Poker Data said. Have you seen the list? Was the list on Twitter? Okay, so it's real. It's not just the Poker Data.
It's real.
I was worried it was like the United Wings that you saw on Poker Data.
I looked at it and I thought, he's definitely not played United Wings.
This is actually the most bog standard.
Just Bog Pow.
It is Bog Pow.
Bog Pow.
Obviously, you had.
What are you playing, Bog Pow?
Jared Browns was messaging underneath the tweet as well. finding out what
course,
those
you know.
matchups were. Snorlax, Lugia,
Yeah.
Dragapult, Snorlax, Miraidon, Zard. Actually, he played a host of like randomness.
He was beating Laxes.
Don't know about beating. He went. Let me double check his record.
Well, he must be doing okay
14th
if he's.
place. So
He was
went
he was beating Lax with a
so
bog.
maybe his 2 losses were 2 Lax. Who knows?
Yeah, it must have been.
Insane,
Sure.
beating everything else.
Or at least a tie, maybe at most.
Yeah, there was a
Crazy.
what else was there? I saw an Ochaludon, top 64 with the Alga V Star.
I know. I think Grant has done a Poker Beach article on that.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
So they ended.
It may have only come
2-2.
out this weekend. Yeah, it's only just recently come out, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a new archetype for you, Benjamin. I know you were complaining just now
Well,
about Surging Sparks not coming out with his own new deck.
Archaludon.
Archaludon. I think it's okay, but why would I
It's
not play? I mean, it's the age old question, isn't it? I know it's its own archetype and it's like tier 3-2, but it's not like it's not going to be all singing, all dancing, is it?
It's not like a poster boy.
I'm having to scroll
It,
down.
it doesn't hit great numbers either. It's hiding behind just big HP, really, isn't it?
Just trying to see what else there was that hasn't been noted already on PokeStats. There's a Regigigas Pikachu EX deck.
No, how far did it get?
124. What 124?
128.
128.
Let's go.
Charlie Lockyer.
Oh, Charlie!
Yeah, I did.
Charlie
did
has
see
a
that.
tendency to play some wild.
I did
stuff.
see that list as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
also
it's back,
using
isn't
your
it?
precious trolley, as it were.
Trolley, I'm telling you, Trolley unlocks garbage. It really does. Like everything that shouldn't work, if you just trolley early enough, it can sometimes work.
Arven, Trolley.
Yeah, literally, trolley forest, and you're like,
there's no Arven in this.
I can do anything I want.
We've got to find those
It's
trolleys
like that.
because there's definitely no Arven. There's Ciphers. And
okay, there you go.
And Drago Draw Power, I guess.
Cypher and Dragon Drago draw power. That's bust.
Yeah. So
Very good.
yeah, a couple of interesting decks. Obviously, like I said, we're still waiting to see the full breakdown eventually. When come on, Robin, do some work. Limitless updates and stuff.
Please. How many people have just been spam refreshing on Limitless? You think today? Like, do you think it's hundreds? I feel like it's probably hundreds that have at least looked at Limitless like 5 times today.
Can't believe he's gatekeeping all this information for himself.
I know. What the heck?
So selfish.
He needs some staff. That's what he needs.
Hire his brother or something.
Hire some staff. Everyone go sub to Limitless so they can afford some staff members.
Please.
They still got a Patreon.
Go to the They should still have a. I mean, I think they've still got a Patreon. I think it's still coming out of my bank every day. Every month.
They should have one, right?
I don't know. I don't know. To be
I can't
honest.
imagine they would have moved it.
Yeah, they do. It's still at the bottom of their web.
Patreon. There you go.
They've definitely still got it.
No, we won't link it. Thank you very much.
We will link
it. Anything else from you, boys?
No.
I mean, like I said, Stuttgart this weekend. Me and Joe will be in attendance.
Looking forward to watching it.
Looking forward to the
Christmas markets.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
That's what I am jealous of. The Christmas markets in Stuttgart are so good.
Yeah. I need to check my baggage situation as well, whether or not I'm bringing a cube. But I'm going back on Monday, so I would like to bring one. Yeah. It's all there. It's been a while. I've done a few events without bringing a cube, and I've felt naked without it. We've just had to drink instead.
Yeah, no one wants to do that. We've
had to drink and talk to each other. Yeah.
I guess we'll just drink if we can't.
We need a cube detox
do anything else.
instead.
Yeah, let me drink and cube instead. This is fantastic. Although
that doesn't go well. Yeah, we don't want to do that again. Memories.
What do you mean? We saw Will.i.am taking the piss out of us.
So that's a good little anecdote, isn't it? Will.i.am running up the stairs going, "Hey, Pokemon!" at like 1 a.m.
Anyway, I think on that note, I think we should end it there. But yeah, Stuttgart.com. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on the SpilltheTeaCG podcast. We've had Ben back. Hopefully, he continues to be here.
I'm gonna baby to feed right now. Yeah.
Himself to feed. 3-hour nap for Benjamin.
Yeah.
But thanks for hanging around the whole time, and we'll catch you on the next pod. See you later. Stoppity.